So if we permanently hold down the crouch button in Mario Galaxy, then Mario moves like this. It is painfully slow. Our only option to jump is to do a backflip, which gives us a lot of height, but unfortunately also flips us backwards, making it very difficult to move forward while jumping. These are all our movement options. Here is a normal platforming challenge that the game expects us to solve. Here's another one. And one more. So it might surprise you to hear that the biggest problem when trying to beat Mario Galaxy while permanently crouching aren't tricky platforming sections atop pastry, nor is it to survive sections like this one. The biggest problem are actually the animals. It's running rabbits, terrible turtles, and of course, cursed cannibalistic penguins. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. So, several years ago, I attempted to beat Super Mario Galaxy while permanently crouching, only to come to the wrong realization that this is impossible for mistaken reasons that we'll soon take a look at. And thus, I forgot about the entire thing. Until very recently, because recently we attempted to beat Mario Galaxy without ever touching a coin, and while doing so, all of a sudden I remembered our failed crouched ambitions from years ago. And thus, I made a fateful decision. I decided to give Galaxy crouching another shot, not understanding what I had just signed up for. So gentle ladies, gentlemen, and gentle people in general, are you ready? Then let's do this! Alright, so before we waddle our way through Galaxy, we first have to define the actual rules of our challenge, don't we? Luckily, the rules are simple. We play while permanently holding down the crouch button, forcing Mario to permanently waddle. Is there any instance where we are allowed to let go of the crouch button? Well, yes, we do allow ourselves to perform ground pounds. To perform a ground pound, we have to let go of the crouch button while in air and then immediately press it again. Ground pounds are necessarily required to progress through the game, and they do not interfere with the core idea of this run, so we do allow them. Next, how do we track our wondrous crouching journey? Well, on a wonderful, brand new, totally not recycled overview chart, of course. We'll discuss each of the 6 Galaxy hubs in the game in order, as well as the first and the final stage separately, and we will note down potential shameful instances that required us to erect ourselves for each Galaxy individually, which already brings us to the pink fuzzy in the room. How in all of Bowser's castles do we even play the game like this? We are so slow while waddling that most platforming challenges are obviously impossible. To make matters worse, our only way of jumping are backflips. We can't even jump onto a platform in front of us with a backflip. And this is where all of this becomes really interesting. Because while it is true that we can't really jump on a platform in front of us, we can actually jump onto one behind us. The thing is the following: when doing a backflip, Mario actually gains a lot of backwards momentum in Galaxy. If we now push our joystick into the opposite direction that Mario is facing, we actually can cover a decent amount of distance backwards. But that's not all. If we stop giving an input before we actually hit the ground, then Mario lands while still facing into the direction he faced before we did the jump, meaning that we can immediately do another backflip and another one, and so on, which actually allows us to build up decent momentum. This here is pretty much our only way to move today, and funnily enough, that's actually way less terrible than it might sound at first glance. There is a nice rhythm to this movement and it is surprisingly quickish. However, it also does have a couple of very noticeable problems. So first, we can't change orientation fast, turning around while waddling just takes forever. Second, the gravity on small planets really messes with this way of playing. Finally, the maximum speed that we can reach like this is just limited because of our, let's call it, very special movement needs today. Whenever the game wants us to do something fast, we face a problem. Cool, so generally we are fine moving through the stages as long as we can take our time, don't have to change direction often, and are on large planets with even gravity. If we ever, however, find ourselves on top of a small planetoid, which we have to change direction often and maybe even have to move fast, then we are in big trouble. Which already brings us to... At the beginning of the video, I mentioned that I failed doing this run years ago. What I did not tell you, however, is why I failed so spectacularly back then. You see, the game begins. It's the evening of the Star Festival, Bowser appears, Peach gets kidnapped, Mario takes a good beating, the entire galaxy is in danger. So far, it's business as usual. But then the game takes a dark turn for the worse. You see, Mario awakens from his defeating defeat and finds himself on a small planetoid. And it is this very moment that already killed my run many years ago, because it is at this fateful point that we encounter the first apocalyptic bunny of doom. The game now wants us to catch a bunny. It is this very bunny that murdered my first try. Years ago, I actually never even made it out of the movement tutorial, because we just aren't fast enough to grab the dumb tutorial bunny. Or at least I believed that we were not fast enough to catch it. But as it turns out, I missed something critical back in the day. I missed the water. The water actually slows the bunny down. It's not much, and getting the bunny into the water from the right angle is a nightmare, but if we perfectly set up a situation in which the bunny chases into the pool like this, while we align Mario perfectly, then, well, would you look at this? We actually grabbed the first bunny, and it only took us 5 years. Hooray! 2 more bunnies to go. So this took me the better part of my Sunday afternoon, but I'm happy to report that all bunnies can be caught using the water trick, making it possible for us to leave the tutorial proudly crouching for the very first time in history. We actually have a run going. And by this I mean that we immediately run into the next problem, the Dino Piranha Star in the good Egg Galaxy. So the problem is neither the platforming section towards PT Piranha, nor are the rolling rocks. The problem is much simpler. It is PT Piranha itself. You see, as soon as the fight starts, the overly large dinosaur plant runs towards us and hits us. There is no way to dodge the terrible boss fast enough to avoid the hit. Oh no, the dumb boss just devours us tip to toe as soon as we begin to waddle. So we're going to do something unusual here for once. We're going to put a pin into the problem and come back to it later. The beginning of this run is just so brutal, we're going to cut ourselves some slack here and outsource this problem to future me in about 20 minutes. Because there is already a new problem lurking in the next mission. After a while, we have to make it through a 2D section here in which pillars try to push us off. We aren't fast enough to make it through the section before we fall down. Oh dear, what mess have we gotten ourselves into here? Luckily, this problem can actually be solved with a neat little trick jump. The third mission in this galaxy has us play octopus tennis with a boss, which isn't trivial but doable while crouching, and hooray! We cleared a single galaxy. It only took us a little more than 5 years, and we only had to postpone a single problem so far. We were making exceptionally terrible progress, aren't we? When all of a sudden, the fuzzy gods took notice of our suffering and decided to intervene. Sun rays were breaking through the clouds, blessing us with warmth as we entered the Honey Hive Galaxy, a place of hope and healing. The thing is the following. Most stars in this galaxy are built around a divine artifact of immense power, the Sacred Bee Costume. The Sacred Bee Costume is phenomenal. If Nintendo is ever in need of a preacher to spread the word about the sacred church of the divine bee costume, let it be known that I am available, ordained, and deeply devoted. You see, if we transform into a saintly bee, we wondrously gain the ability to fly, even if we press the crouch button. We can finally make some progress here. It is possible to grab all main stars in a Honey Hive Galaxy without any major problems, and things are only about to get even better. You see, stages that are built around minigames, gameplay-changing power-ups, or gimmicks are great for us today in general, because most of the time pressing the crouch button does not change in any way how these levels are played. The upcoming Loop-de-Loop Galaxy, for example, is a relaxing swim exercise on top of a helpful manta ray that provides us with another easy star, and even the star in the Flip Switch Galaxy is possible to grab without standing up once. Would you look at this? We already made it to the first boss level, Bowser Jr.'s boss reactor. All that we have to do here is to get a bunch of bullet blasters to their target location and hooray! We made it into the second hub world of the game, the fountain, and so far we were not once forced to rise apart from the PT Piranha fight. Luckily, however, the tides are finally turning. So first, the Space Junk Galaxy. I love the Space Junk Galaxy. The whole galaxy is built around gimmicky minigame thingies. First we have to pull Mario along pull stars, then defeat a boss while carrying a Koopa shell, and finally, we have to shoot our plumber through space using web slings. All of these mechanics are unaffected by us pressing the crouch button, meaning we can backflip to all the stars here without any major problems. Even a boss fight against the most terrifying of all the spiders, Tentalox, is doable. This one is a bit tricky because we're almost guaranteed to take some damage once she starts to spit the dangerous acid, but luckily there are nice and helpful coins hidden within the web that allow us to easily out-heal all the damage the boss does. Very helpful coins. Actually nice coins. Very nice coins. Which already brings us to the Battle Rock Galaxy. The first two missions here are trivial. The third, however, is not. As a matter of fact, it is the first star that we certainly can't get at all. You see, towards the end of the mission, the game wants us to quickly platform past these moving pillars that try to crush us, which we cannot do. We're simply too slow. Fortunately, however, we can grab the star in the Green Hill Zone with ease, and even the Hurry's Curry Galaxy, a name that promises exactly the two things we're currently contractually incapable of doing, is doable, meaning we can already open up the second boss level. Maybe this run is actually going to be a lot easier than we first thought. Was probably the last thing that I was thinking as the sun was falling from the sky. At the end of the Fury Stronghold, a brutal boss fight is waiting for us. The royal king of the Koopa tribe himself, Bowser. Bowser is about to put up a fight for the centuries. Holy fuzzy. The thing is the following. The entire fight takes place on small planetoids. Bowser attacks us with fiery fireballs and shocking shockwaves, both of which are tricky to dodge, but those are not the main problem. The main problem is actually hitting the king of the Koopa tribe. Because while Bowser's tail is burning, he is running away from us. The proud king of the Koopa tribe, fleeing from us as if it were a common bunny. We, however, can't reach him fast enough to deal damage. And thus, for one short, deeply unnatural moment in the history of the Mushroom Kingdom, it is Bowser who is being chased. And while somewhere a certain princess was finally getting some closure, we were slowly growing desperate. We were simply not fast enough to grab the tail. I was stuck here for ages, chasing Bowser's burning tails in circles, never quite reaching it, regretting every life decision that got me into this terrible situation in the first place. But then I realized something. If we stop chasing Bowser and instead wait for him to flee towards us, then we can actually barely hit him. So the timing window to pull this off is insanely tight. It took me dozens, if honestly not hundreds of tries to get this 3 times in a row, but it is possible, meaning that the entire fountain can be played through without ever standing up. Hooray! We finally achieved something. Our next stop, the kitchen. The kitchen is good news for us, because the kitchen features the first major missions that are built entirely around underwater exploration. Underwater gameplay is great for us, because swimming is not affected by crouching. We can easily grab the first star in the Beach Ball Galaxy without any problems. The second star requires us to dive up a golden shell. We can easily grab the shell and then... Wait a second. What is happening? Do you see this? Why are we moving at a snail's pace when carrying a shell underwater? Oh no. When swimming with a shell, the crouch button actually acts as the brake. Swimming with a shell actually makes us so slow that I drowned the first time I tried to surface the shell. So this problem can be solved with a lot of patience and by grabbing the shell close to the shore. But spoiler alert, the shell's brakes are going to try to stop us again before all of this is over. The third mission here is fortunately easy, which brings us to the Ghostly Galaxy, one of my favorite galaxies in the game. A galaxy that we actually get to explore. We easily rescue Ouija, opening up tons of potential stars. We win the Boo race without any problems since it is built around gimmicks, and we can even reach the boss fight against Bouldergeist, at which point we politely introduce ourselves before kindly declining his invitation to fight against the explosive ghost in a crouching battle. This is not going to happen. The bubble-blowing galaxy provides us with another easy gimmick star, and with this we already meet Bowser Jr. in the third boss level. Since the boss fight there is built around carrying shells, it is trivial to do when crouching. And with this, we cleared another game hub. Up we go to the bedroom. The bedroom is a bedroom. We immediately run into the first problem in the Gusty Garden Galaxy, because the first mission requires us to chase the fourth apocalyptic bunny of doom. And this time, we are just not going to catch it. Trust me, I've tried. Oh, I've tried. This dumb bunny locks us out of all the stars in the entire galaxy. And it gets even worse, because the alternative to this stage is the Freeze Flame Galaxy. And the Freeze Flame Galaxy is a nightmare for so many different reasons. First, there is the penguin, second there are the flowers, and third, there is the ice skating parkour. So let's start with the penguin. To even enter the galaxy, we have to grab this little troublemaker that is sliding on the ice. Luckily for us, it is easily possible to grab this guy if we are sliding. Unfortunately for us, however, we can't simply slide today. We can't initiate a slide while crouching. We just don't start skating when we do a spin attack. However, if we jump into the air and align the timing of our spin attack perfectly with the moment that Mario lands on the ice, then it is actually possible to get Mario to skate while crouching. The timing here is ridiculously tight. I honestly suspect that it is frame perfect, but it is possible, which means we can at least enter the galaxy. But that was just the first problem, because now the fire and the ice flower are introduced. And of course, both of them work on a timer, which causes us many problems, the biggest one during the second mission. Here we first have to grab a fire flower at the bottom of the planet and then quickly backflip back to the area where we came from to light 2 torches. The timing here is brutal. Even after clearing all enemies in the area, we are still too slow. Figuring this out took me centuries, but if we time grabbing the flower in such a way that the rising tide on the other side of the planet is in a favorable position when we reach it, then we can actually get Mario to swim for a short bit, which means we are barely fast enough to throw a fire flower, fire power, ball fire, flower fire, power fireball onto the torches. But we're still not done here, because the finish of the third mission has us raced against the flower timer while flip-flopping between gravity fields. So I honestly really don't know what to say about this section, other than that it is brutally difficult to pull this off without letting go of the crouch button. It is possible to do. I got a lot of grey hair doing it, and I never want to speak about the Freeze Flame Galaxy ever again. It's grueling. So at that point, I was honestly severely exhausted. I was sweat-soaked and tired. I desperately needed a break, but the bedroom wasn't done with us yet. Far from it. There is still the Dusty Dune Galaxy and the boss stage. So let's fast forward a bit here. We can grab the first and second star in this galaxy. The second mission is actually difficult because the final objective is on a timer, but we can do it. The third star, however, cursed be the third star of the Dusty Dune Galaxy. Here we have to play soccer against an especially nasty Pokey. Hitting the Pokey with one of the rocks while crouching is so unbelievably tedious that I'm honestly lacking the words to describe it. I think describes my feelings pretty well. It is actually possible to hit the guy if we just for long enough. This, however, doesn't even help us much, because we aren't fast enough to actually deliver the finishing blow, locking us out of another star. And that's not even the dumbest problem that the bedroom throws towards us. That one awaits us during the boss mission. So are you ready to confront a terror so gross that it might stay with you for the rest of your life? Well, then take a deep breath and be strong, because may I present to you Ledge Stepless, the Baroness of Inconvenience. This dumb ledge, this terrible ledge here is such a problem. This ledge here is stomping us. And I know what at least one of you wonderful people is currently thinking. Just jump over it? Which would be a great idea, but one does not simply jump over ledge stepless, because ledge stepless is protected by an ancient force still not fully understood by humanity, called gravity. The gravity field here is just set up in such an unfortunate way that we drop to our doom if we backflip in front of the geometrical mini-boss. A backflip here is a death sentence, but without backflipping, there is no way to make it past this ledge. And thus, I backflipped Mario directly into the plumber dissolving goop below, over and over again, looking for a way to defeat this step of terror. And luckily, I found something. You see, if we waddle Mario with pure dedication into the step and then perform a forward backflip and immediately after twirl, then we can actually limit the height that we're getting in such a way that, hooray! This was a small step for humanity, but a big step for Mario. And with this, all that is left to do for us is to defeat the boss in the bedroom, and we are... oh no. May the fuzzies be with us. It is Bowser. Again, we have to chase after Bowser's burning tail once more, but this time Bowser is significantly stronger. So the good news first. The burning tail phase works the same as before, which means theoretically it is still possible to hit him. The bad news? Well, the bad news is that the burning tail phase works the same as before, of course. The timing to hit Bowser is so unbelievably precise, it's maddening. And that's not even the biggest problem yet. The biggest problem is Bowser's new attack pattern. You see, while we were dabbling with shells and stumbling over ledges, Bowser actually hit the gym. He was pulling weights, jumping the rope, inhaling protein powder, and squatting rocks with a simple goal in mind: acquiring martial arts skills that no turtle, since the legendary Ninja Turtles, has achieved. And while I do not know what protein powder a fire-breathing turtle uses, it certainly worked, and I certainly want none of it. Bowser's efforts rewarded him with a new powerful punch attack, and this new punch attack is a huge problem. By the third phase, he quickly delivers 3 powerful punches in a row. The punches come so fast that we can't deflect them fast enough, nor can we simply hop away in time. The only consistent way to survive the attack that I found is the following. We bait the first punch while we are far away from him, we jump over Bowser during the second punch, and finally punch back the final swing with a whirl. The huge problem comes afterwards, because afterwards we only get 2 chances to perform the incredibly tight trick jump to hit him, which we just simply fail most of the time. But if we do not get the hit, then we have to pull off the entire sequence again and again and again. I was stuck here for hours. Bowser is just so strong here, but we won't rise to the occasion. We will remain small. And thus we claw, we tear, we jump and hit, we get beaten and beat back, we get burned and electrified, but we keep going. And eventually, we somehow manage to actually defeat Bowser, who, oh my god, that was only the second fight of 3. Ray. So as it turns out, it is possible to leave the bedroom without ever rising up. But doing so came at a cost. When entering the engine room, I was exhausted. Surviving the bedroom had cost us almost all our resources. We barely have enough stars to even open up the Gold Leaf Galaxy. At this point, the entire run is at the brink of falling apart. We desperately need a couple of easy stars to get us back on track. And thus we enter the Gold Leaf Galaxy. Oh no! Please don't do this to me. Do you see this? The star is called Star Bunnies on the Hunt. The first star here is a bunny catching star. We can't get the star here because we can't grab the dumb 5th apocalyptic bunny of doom here. Trust me, I've tried. This dumb bunny locks us out of all the stars in the galaxy. Again! Gentle ladies, gentlemen, and gentle people in general. We have a problem. We are 2 stars behind to open up the next stage. So far, we grabbed all the stars in the galaxies that we could get, including the secret stars that were obtainable. There are only 2 types of stars that we haven't explored so far: comet stars and the hungry Luma stars. So comet stars are a trap for very obvious reasons. Those stars are either races, rematches with incredibly fast enemies, or speedrun challenges. All things that we can't pull off for cuddling reasons, which only leaves us with the 4 hungry Luma galaxies that are available to us at that point. So first the Slim Pot Galaxy. This one is great because not only is it a gimmick galaxy, meaning you can easily grab the star while crouching, but the galaxy is also filled to the brim with Starbits, which allows us to run it a couple of times to get enough star pieces to fill the other Luma's cravings. The next hungry Luma galaxy, however, is the Sweet Galaxy. Oh dear, our old arch enemy. It's pastry again. Here we have to platform on top of delicious cake floor and over rotating cookie cutters, which is a problem because the elements are moving faster than we are. The biggest problem here is making it through the cake canyon. Here we have to survive a journey through a terrible cake mountain pass while the whole floor is rotating, permanently tearing terrible cookie-shaped crevices into the ground. Surviving the climb through the cake canyon permanently crouching is nothing short of a cake catastrophe. But we we have an honorable goal in front of us. No matter how difficult the cake we have to climb, we will not stand up today. Eventually, we overcake the problem with sheer willpower and grab the star, allowing us to unlock the Sea Slide Galaxy, which slides us directly into the next problem. The first star here has a swim-along Goompy who criminally was overlooked when it came to Mario Kart World's character selection. This star is free. The next one, however, is dark. The next star is the Penguin Race. So many people don't notice that the Penguin Race is not merely a fun little swimming competition. As a matter of fact, it is a brutal coming-of-age ritual that the local penguins periodically perform. The terror that is lurking below this event only becomes apparent once we ourselves compete in the race. The race is balanced around swimming with shells. We, however, ain't going to win no race today using a shell. Our only option to swim is the way nature had intended for us originally, by swirling hectically. This, however, is not fast enough to win the terrifying race, which already brings us back to the terror that is lurking below this seemingly harmless contest. You see, when playing casually, I never failed the race before, so I never noticed it. But if Mario loses the race, the penguins first drag us back ashore before the screen fades to black and Mario dies in a scene that Nintendo obviously felt they had to censor, which raises a terrifying question. If the penguins murder Mario if he loses the race, then what are the penguins actually doing to all the other little penguins that aren't fast enough swimmers? What happens to all the other penguins that also lose the race? A question that we better leave unanswered today. I've personally chosen to believe that they all get adopted by a nice bee family in the Golden Leaf Galaxy, which would make a lot of sense since this is also what happened to my childhood goldfish after he disappeared. Anyway, whatever happens to them, there's just no point for us to fail this challenge over and over again, only for us to get eaten afterwards by the faster penguins. We can't pull this off without a shell. We're 2 stars short again, and there are only 2 more Hungry Luma galaxies left that we have not visited yet. First, the Big Eelmouth Galaxy. Here we have to dive underwater and we have to grab a shell and shoot a total of 3 hungry eels that are swimming around. This is tedious for obvious reasons, but pulling this off with the crouch button pressed isn't too terrible. The next galaxy, however, oh dear, the Big Mouth Galaxy is impossible to do for us. Here we first have to swim into a sunken cave and, oh god, grab a golden shell again. We now have to bring this golden shell back to the entrance, which we simply can't do. We drown 3 times over before we are anywhere near the entrance. This galaxy is a dead end. Fortunately for us, however, not all hope is lost yet, because our brother-in-arms, Luigi, just decided to get lost in the Battlestar Galaxy. We can save Luigi there after backflipping through a tedious, terrible, and terribly tedious bullet bill guiding section, which means we actually have exactly enough stars to open up the next galaxy. So we have to take a step back for a second here. At this point, our entire expedition is in a terrible shape. We're completely out of options when it comes to stars, and we're still 5 stars short of opening the boss stage of the engine room. The only place left for us to explore is the Toy Time Galaxy. The Toy Time Galaxy is what either makes or breaks this waddling challenge. If we can't get enough stars there, it is over. And thus I ducked and covered and waddled into the Toy Time Galaxy, expecting the worst. And as it turns out, the Toy Time Galaxy is actually really easy to do while crouching. We can defeat Mecha Bowser waddling, we can backflip our way through the Mario meets Mario star, we can even bounce down the cake lane at pastry level. Heck, we can even get the secret star here. There is nothing stopping us, not even a bunny. To make things even better, the Sacred Honeycomb Galaxy unlocked with unbelievable timing, right as we were starving for one final star. Gentle ladies, gentlemen, and gentle people in general, the boss stage here has us play Octopus Tennis once again, which we already mastered, and with this we already unlocked the final galaxy hub in the game, the garden. It is actually possible to leave the engine room without ever standing up as well. Hooray! Now things finally become a bit easier for us. First, we can easily grab the purple coin star here. The only thing that we have to worry about is not to accidentally waddle past the coins, because as it turns out, it is actually possible to dodge lots of coins in the game by just waddling below them. which would have been very incredibly useful information about a month ago. Next is the Deep Dark Galaxy, an actually phenomenal place for a crouching cause. This is the first galaxy in which we can get not only the main stars and the secret one, but the Comet Star as well. The Comet here is a boss rematch with only a single health point, which is tricky to do crouching, but absolutely possible. We can get the 3 main stars in the Dreadnought Galaxy. Even better, we can actually get the first and the secret star in the Melty Molten Galaxy. The second mission there, however, is locked for us since we can't make it past the swamp without a tragic stomping accident. While exploring these places, a new Hungry Luma appeared, opening up a Boo race, which we can do unaffected by crouching as well, and with this we only need to grab a single star to open up the final gauntlet of the game. And as it turns out, there is one more galaxy in the game that we have not explored so far. The Matter Splatter Galaxy. The Matter Splatter Galaxy is a worthy final gauntlet. Holy fuzzy. This place. The problem is the final section at the very end. Here we quickly have to move along a tiny path while the stage itself is hectically moving forward, threatening to vanish the very floor that we're standing upon. And this spot here is really difficult to do. The path is tiny, we have to be quick to make it, and we permanently have to change our direction. But at that point, we survived so many problematic platforming sections without rising up that not even the Matter Splatter Galaxy is capable of stopping us. And with this, we completed the Garden Galaxy. There is only one more place for us to survive. The final stage of the game, fittingly named the Fate of the Universe. The fate of the universe is not decided easily. So fast forward a bit here, it is possible to make it to the final boss fight. It is unbelievably tricky for various reasons, but it is possible. The biggest problem is the blocks that appear out of thin air only to disappear soon after. We have to pretty cleverly time our backflips here so that we not accidentally spawn in a bunch of the later platforms too early, and afterwards we have to strategically burn Mario's bottom in the firebar section before even more strategic bottom burning is required in the final tunnel to skip some forms, but it is possible to reach the final boss fight. The final boss fight against Bowser. The very same Bowser that already caused us so many problems on the way here. And first I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Flashing images of all the obstacles that we had to overcome to reach this point all of a sudden appeared right in front of me. How we platformed through dozens of tricky platforming gauntlets, how we played octopus tennis and came out victorious, how we escaped cannibalistic penguins, how we got stopped by thwomps and still found a way forward, how the shells brought us to a crawling stop and we still proceeded. And alongside all the images, a noise playing in my head over and over again. Wahoo! Mario's cheerful scream while backflipping. We came so far. We achieved so much. No matter how much Bowser commands us to stand up, we will remain kneeling in front of the Koopa King today. Whatever comes next, we are ready. At first we start the battle. At first, Bowser dresses up as a rock and tries to crush us, but we quickly retaliate with perfectly timed crouch spins. Then we have to sling dangerous plants right into his dumb turtle belly, which we perfectly managed to pull off. We are already in the final phase of the fight. Once again, we have to get Bowser to jump towards the lava on the floor and then hit his burning tail. We concentrate. We wait the attack. We watch him run away. We backflip. We spin jump. And we actually hit him. Twice. Gentle ladies, gentlemen and gentle people in general, we actually managed to pull this off on the first try. We just decided the fate of the entire universe. Crouching. Hooray! And here we are, having routed the entire game while permanently crouching, and there is still a shameful stain of failure on our overview board. There is still PT Piranha silently watching us. PT Piranha, the true final boss of the game. And thus we return to the place where it all began. We take another deep breath. We focus, we crouch like we never crouched before. We start the fight, and we just get obliterated by the dumb walking piranha dinosaur plant as soon as the fight starts. Every single time. There is nothing that we can do here. We have to get up if we want to defeat this dumb monstrosity. So it pains me to say this from the very bottom of my crouching heart, but unfortunately it is not possible to beat Super Mario Galaxy without ever standing up. PT Piranha, a disgusting foe, actually prevents this. However, there is one more trick in the game that we haven't talked about yet. One more trick that is kinda dumb, but that at least allows us to succeed partly. You see, it may be true that we have to get up to defeat PT Piranha, but we can actually get up with the crouch button still pressed. The thing is the following: if Mario takes damage while crouching, then he actually gets up from the ground afterwards, independent of the crouch button. Even if we keep the crouch button pressed, Mario still stands up, making it possible to play normally for a bit. So I didn't use this technique at any other point during the run because it is totally against the spirit of today's challenge, but you know, desperate times call for desperate measures. If the only way to murder this dumb dinosaur plant is by breaking the rules a tiny bit, then I'll happily serve my sentence. And with this, we get our sweet revenge. So is it possible to beat Super Mario Galaxy without ever standing up? Well, no, we have to rise up to get the better of PT Piranha. But it is possible to beat the entire game while permanently holding down the crouch button. Hooray! So this run was honestly among the most insane things I've ever tried. The game gets weirdly challenging yet rewarding when playing backwards and crouching. It's something that I can actually really recommend everyone to try. You may want to skip the tutorial when doing this for fun, because catching the bunnies at the start, that's a wound that is still healing. Let's never talk about it again, but the rest of the game plays phenomenally. So before we cuddle this up, just two more things. So first, a galaxy-spanning thank you to all my wonderful patrons whose names are currently scrolling by. These wonderful people not only regularly get access to little additional bonus scripts and small videos, but their wonderful support is also the magic power that empowers us waddling. A huge thank you to them for that. Second, are there any more stars that can be collected while crouching? And the answer is, I don't know. Beating the game regularly unlocks the purple coin challenges, and a couple of those are certainly doable. There might be a chance that the penguin race is possible without grabbing a shell. I got kinda close once, but it felt heavily reliant on RNG. The Big Mouth shell is super maybe possible because tons of boosts spawn in when driving back, which we can maybe turn into coins that give us a tiny amount of breath, but finding a way to pull this off reliably sounds maddening to me. There is the secret star in the Beach Galaxy that did not make it into the script, where we have to form an ice platform for the sunshine enemy thingy that pushes us upwards, that maybe can either be done as intended or by a trick jump from the side, but I wasn't able to pull this one off as well. And the boulder guys might maybe possible too, if someone is crazy enough to give it a shot. So if someone finds a way to get another star or two while crouching, I'd absolutely love to know about it. Awesome. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this silly little video. If you did, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up, and maybe you feel especially like the one penguin that didn't get eaten today and want to hit the subscribe button as well. Finally, if you truly loved the video and want to show content like this some love, then there is also the option to support the channel via Patreon. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, lots of hugs.